Early humans are believed to have developed language in close connection with their environment, initially attempting to imitate natural sounds as a way to refer to objects and events. This process, known as onomatopoeia, allowed our ancestors to create vocal symbols directly linked to their surroundings, such as mimicking the sound of water, animal calls, or other environmental noises. Over time, these imitative sounds may have evolved into more complex systems of communication, gradually forming the building blocks of language. Several theories attempt to explain the origins of human speech. The POOH-POOH theory posits that language began as instinctive emotional vocalizations, such as cries of pain, joy, or surprise. According to this perspective, early speech evolved from expressions of emotion rather than deliberate attempts to convey specific ideas. In contrast, the yo-he-ho theory emphasizes the social and cooperative aspect of early communication, suggesting that language developed to coordinate group activities, especially during physical labor, such as lifting, hunting, or moving heavy objects together. In this view, rhythmic vocalizations and coordinated sounds helped early humans synchronize their efforts and strengthen social bonds. Physical evolution also played a crucial role in enabling speech. Changes in body structure, such as upright posture, allowed for greater breath control, while dental arrangements, including vertical teeth, facilitated precise articulation of sounds. Flexible lips and a highly mobile tongue expanded the range of possible sounds. And the evolution of a specialized larynx made complex vocal patterns possible. These anatomical adaptations provided the physiological foundation necessary for producing the wide variety of sounds that human languages employ today. From a cognitive perspective, the innateness theory argues that humans are genetically predisposed to acquire language. This perspective suggests that the human brain contains specialized mechanisms that make language learning possible, potentially linked to a hypothetical language gene or specific neural structures that support grammar, syntax, and vocabulary acquisition. Evidence for this theory includes the uniform stages of language development observed in children across cultures, implying an underlying biological readiness for language. Overall, the emergence of human speech likely resulted from a combination of environmental imitation, emotional expression, social cooperation, anatomical adaptation, and genetic predisposition. These factors work together over millennia to transform simple vocalizations into the rich and complex languages we use today, enabling humans to communicate abstract ideas, share knowledge and build intricate social structures. Human language stands out as a unique form of communication because it allows for intentional communication, where speakers deliberately convey specific ideas, thoughts, or emotions, rather than simply reacting instinctively to immediate stimuli. Unlike most animal communication, human language also enables metalinguistic awareness, or the ability to discuss and reflect on language itself, its rules, structure, and use. This capacity for introspection allows humans not only to communicate about the world, but also to analyze and manipulate language as a system, which is a defining feature of our species. Several key properties distinguish human language from other forms of communication. One fundamental feature is displacement, the ability to refer to events, objects, or concepts that are not present in the immediate environment, including the past, the future, or even hypothetical situations. This allows humans to plan, tell stories, teach, and share experiences beyond the here and now. Another property is arbitrariness, which means that the link between a word's form, Its sounds or written symbols and its meaning is largely conventional rather than inherently obvious. For example, there is no natural connection between the word tree and the object it represents. The association exists because of social agreement within a linguistic community. Productivity or creativity is another essential feature. Human language enables speakers to generate an infinite number of expressions using a finite set of sounds and rules. This allows for the constant creation of new sentences, ideas, and artistic expressions, making human communication extraordinarily flexible and adaptive. The principle of duality of patterning further enhances this capacity. At the first level, language consists of discrete, meaningless units, sounds called phonemes. At the second level, these phonemes can be combined in systematic ways to produce meaningful units, such as words and sentences. This dual structure is what allows humans to produce and understand countless unique messages using a limited set of basic sounds. In contrast, animal communication systems tend to be composed of fixed signals that are tied to specific stimuli or emotional states. For example, a vervet monkey's alarm calls correspond to specific predators, but the monkey cannot combine these calls creatively to describe new situations or abstract ideas. Animal signals are largely instinctive and lack the generative complexity that characterizes human language. Another critical aspect of human language is cultural transmission. Unlike most animal communication, which is genetically hardwired, human language is learned socially and passed down across generations through teaching, imitation, and interaction. Children acquire the language of their community, absorbing grammar, vocabulary, and cultural nuances, which ensures the continuity and evolution of language over time. This social learning allows languages to diversify, adapt, and accumulate complex features, creating the rich linguistic diversity we see across human societies today. Phonetics and phonology are two closely related branches of linguistics that study speech sounds, but they approach them from different perspectives. Acoustic phonetics focuses on the physical properties of speech sounds as sound waves. It analyzes measurable features such as frequency, amplitude, duration, and waveform patterns, explaining how speech is transmitted through the air and perceived by the ear. In contrast, articulatory phonetics examines how speech sounds are produced by the human vocal apparatus, including the lungs, vocal cords, tongue, lips, teeth, and the roof of the mouth. This branch explains the physiological mechanisms involved in shaping sounds during speech. Speech sounds are systematically classified based on two major criteria: place of articulation and manner of articulation. The place of articulation refers to where in the vocal tract a sound is produced. For example, bilabial sounds such as /p/ and /b/ are produced using both lips, while alveolar sounds like /t/ and /se/ are articulated with the tongue against the alveolar ridge behind the upper teeth. Other places of articulation include dental, velar, and glottal, each contributing to distinct sound qualities. The manner of articulation describes how airflow is modified during sound production. Stops, or plosives, such as /p/ and /k/, involve a complete closure of the vocal tract followed by a sudden release of air. Fricatives, such as /f/ and /s/ are produced by forcing air through a narrow constriction, creating friction. Additional manners include nasals, affricates, and approximants, all of which reflect different ways in which speech organs interact to shape sound. Speech sounds are also divided into obstruents and sonorants based on airflow. Obstruents include stops, fricatives, and affricates. They significantly restrict or block airflow and are often associated with higher acoustic energy. Sonorants, such as vowels, nasals, liquids, and glides, allow air to flow more freely through the vocal tract, and are typically more resonant and voiced. While phonetics deals with the physical production and perception of sounds, phonology focuses on how these sounds are organized in the human mind. Phonology examines abstract sound patterns within a language and explains how speakers mentally categorize sounds. A key distinction in phonology is between phonemes and allophones. Phonemes are contrastive sounds that can change meaning when substituted, as seen in minimal pairs like bat and pat. Allophones, on the other hand, are different pronunciations of the same phoneme that do not affect meaning, such as the aspirated and unaspirated versions of /p/ in English. In summary, phonetics provides a physical and articulatory description of speech sounds, while phonology explains how those sounds function cognitively within a linguistic system. Together, they offer a comprehensive understanding of how humans produce, perceive, and mentally organize spoken language. English is a highly dynamic and adaptive language that continually expands its vocabulary through the creation of neologisms, or newly coined words and expressions. These neologisms emerge in response to social change, technological innovation, cultural trends, and contact with other languages. The study of etymology plays a key role in understanding this process, as it traces the historical origins and development of words, revealing how their forms and meanings evolve over time. One of the most common ways English creates new words is borrowing, which involves adopting words from other languages and integrating them into English usage. English has borrowed extensively from languages such as Latin, French, Arabic, Greek, and more recently from global languages due to cultural exchange and globalization. Borrowed words often undergo phonological or morphological adaptation to fit English sound patterns and grammatical rules. Another productive process is compounding, where two or more existing words are combined to form a single lexical item, such as blackboard, toothpaste, or smartphone. Closely related to compounding is blending, which merges parts of words rather than whole forms, as seen in smog, smoke plus fog, or brunch, breakfast plus lunch. These processes allow English to generate concise terms that capture complex ideas. Clipping is a shortening process in which a longer word is reduced without changing its meaning or grammatical category. Examples include ad from advertisement, lab from laboratory, and phone from telephone. This process reflects speakers' preference for efficiency and ease of communication, especially in informal contexts. Backformation involves creating a new word by removing a perceived affix, often resulting in a change in grammatical category. For instance, the verb edit was formed from the noun editor, and donate emerged from donation. This process demonstrates how speakers reinterpret word structure and generate new lexical items accordingly. Another important method is the formation of acronyms and initialisms, which are created from the initial letters of a sequence of words. Acronyms such as NATO or laser are pronounced as single words, while initialisms such as FBI or BBC are pronounced letter by letter. Over time, some acronyms become so integrated into the language that speakers forget their original expanded forms. Finally, English makes extensive use of affixation, which involves adding prefixes, suffixes, or occasionally infixes to existing words to modify or extend their meanings. Prefixes like un, re, and pre change meaning or direction, while suffixes such as ness, meant, and eyes often alter a word's grammatical category. Although infixes are rare in English, they do appear in informal or expressive speech. Affixation is one of the most systematic and productive ways English continues to grow its vocabulary. In conclusion, the flexibility of English word formation processes, borrowing, compounding, blending, clipping, back formation, acronym formation, and affixation, ensures that the language remains responsive to new ideas and communicative needs. Through etymological study, linguists can trace these processes and gain insight into the historical and cultural forces shaping the English lexicon. Morphology is the branch of linguistics concerned with the internal structure of words and the analysis of their smallest meaningful units, known as morphemes. Unlike phonemes, which distinguish sounds without carrying meaning, morphemes contribute semantic or grammatical information and form the foundation of word formation in human language. Morphemes are broadly divided into free morphemes and bound morphemes. Free morphemes can occur independently as complete words and carry meaning on their own, such as book, run, or happy. In contrast, bound morphemes cannot stand alone and must be attached to another morpheme. These typically appear as affixes, including prefixes and suffixes, and modify the meaning or grammatical role of the base word. Bound morphemes are further classified into derivational and inflectional morphemes. Derivational morphemes create new words by changing a word's meaning or its grammatical category. For example, adding ness to happy forms the noun happiness, while the prefix un changes the meaning of kind to unkind. These morphemes are often less predictable in meaning and can significantly alter a word's interpretation. Inflectional morphemes, on the other hand, do not create new words, but instead express grammatical information required by syntax. They indicate features such as tense, -ed, number, -s, possession, -s, or comparison, est. Inflectional morphemes do not change a word's basic meaning or word class. Rather, they adapt words to fit grammatical contexts within a sentence. Another important concept in morphology is the allomorph, which refers to different surface forms of the same morpheme that appear in specific phonological or morphological environments. For example, the English plural morpheme has several allomorphs, such as /s, / in cats, /z, / in dogs, and /is, / in horses. Although these forms differ in pronunciation, they represent the same underlying morpheme and serve the same grammatical function. In summary, morphology explains how words are built from morphemes and how meaning and grammar are encoded within word structure. By distinguishing between free and bound morphemes, derivational and inflectional processes, and allomorphic variation, morphology provides crucial insight into how languages systematically organize and expand their vocabularies. Grammar is the system of rules that governs how words are combined to form phrases, clauses, and sentences in a language. It provides the structural framework that allows speakers to produce meaningful and well-formed utterances, and it enables listeners to interpret relationships between words, such as who is performing an action and who is affected by it. Two major approaches to grammar are commonly distinguished: prescriptive and descriptive. The prescriptive approach focuses on establishing rules for what is considered correct or proper language use. Many prescriptive rules in English were historically influenced by Latin grammar, leading to norms such as avoiding sentence-ending prepositions or discouraging split infinitives. While prescriptivism plays an important role in formal writing, education, and standardized language, it often reflects social conventions rather than the natural behavior of speakers. In contrast, the descriptive approach aims to observe and analyze how language is actually used by native speakers in real contexts, without making value judgments. Descriptive grammar seeks to uncover the unconscious rules that speakers follow naturally, even when they are unaware of them. Modern linguistics primarily adopts this approach, as it provides a more accurate and scientific account of language as a living and evolving system. Grammatical structure also involves categorization, particularly through parts of speech such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and determiners. These categories help explain how words function within sentences. In addition, grammar includes systems of agreement, which ensure consistency between related elements, such as subject-verb agreement in number and person. She runs versus they run. And, in some languages, gender agreement. Although English has relatively limited agreement compared to highly inflected languages, it still maintains essential agreement patterns that contribute to clarity and grammaticality. English grammar relies heavily on word order to express grammatical relationships and meaning. Because English has few inflectional endings, the position of words within a sentence is crucial. The standard sentence structure in English follows the subject-verb-object SVO pattern, as in the student, subject, reads, verb, the book, object. Deviating from this order can change the meaning or result in ungrammatical sentences, highlighting the importance of syntax in English. In summary, grammar encompasses both the rules that structure language and the approaches used to study those rules. By distinguishing between prescriptive and descriptive perspectives, identifying grammatical categories, and understanding the central role of word order, grammar reveals how English organizes meaning and maintains communicative efficiency. Semantics is the branch of linguistics concerned with the study of meaning in language, particularly meaning that is relatively objective and shared among speakers of a linguistic community. Unlike Pragmatics, which examines meaning in relation to context and speaker intention, Semantics focuses on referential meaning, the relationship between linguistic expressions and the entities, actions, or concepts they refer to in the world. This allows semantics to analyze meaning independently of personal emotions, attitudes, or situational factors. A central concept in semantics is the idea of semantic roles, also called thematic roles, which describe the functions that noun phrases perform in relation to a verb within a sentence. The agent is the entity that intentionally performs an action, as in, the chef cooked the meal. The theme, or patient, is the entity that is affected by or undergoes the action, such as the meal in the same sentence. Another important role is the experiencer, which refers to an entity that feels, perceives, or experiences a psychological state, as in, she fears spiders. These roles help explain how meaning is structured at the sentence level and how participants in an event are conceptually related. Semantics also explores lexical relations, which describe systematic relationships between words in a language's vocabulary. Synonyms are words with similar meanings such as big and large, though perfect synonymy is rare due to differences in usage or connotation. Antonyms express oppositeness in meaning, as seen in pairs like hot/cold or alive/dead. Eponymy refers to hierarchical relationships in which the meaning of one word is included within another. For example, rose is a hyponym of flower, while flower is a hypernym of rose. These relationships reveal how vocabulary is organized into semantic networks rather than isolated items. Another key concept in semantics is prototype theory, which explains how humans categorize meanings. According to this approach, categories are not defined solely by fixed boundaries, but are organized around the best or most typical example known as the prototype. For instance, a robin or sparrow is often considered a more prototypical bird than a penguin or ostrich. This explains why some category members are recognized more quickly or feel more natural than others, reflecting the cognitive dimension of meaning. In summary, semantics investigates how meaning is encoded in words and sentences through referential relationships, semantic roles, and lexical organization. By examining synonymy, antonymy, hyponymy, and prototypes, semantics reveals how speakers mentally structure meaning and categorize the world in systematic and shared ways. Pragmatics is the branch of linguistics that studies meaning as it is shaped by context, focusing on the invisible aspects of communication that go beyond the literal meanings of words. Unlike semantics, which deals with objective and context-independent meaning, pragmatics examines speaker intention and how listeners interpret utterances based on shared knowledge, situational factors, and social norms. This allows speakers to communicate far more than what is explicitly stated. A central concept in pragmatics is dixis, which involves pointing expressions whose meaning depends on the context of utterance. Dictic elements include person dixis, I, you, they, time dixis, now, then, yesterday, place dixis, here, there. Without knowing who is speaking when and where, these expressions cannot be fully interpreted. Closely related is the notion of reference, which concerns how speakers use language to identify entities in the world and how listeners successfully recognize those entities. Inference plays a crucial role in pragmatic understanding. Listeners actively infer unstated meanings by combining linguistic input with contextual clues and background knowledge. This process explains how communication often succeeds even when speakers are indirect or incomplete. Within this framework, anaphora refers to the use of expressions, such as pronouns, that refer back to previously mentioned entities, as in Sarah arrived late because she missed the bus. Correct interpretation depends on the listener's ability to link she to Sarah. Another important pragmatic concept is presupposition, which refers to information that a speaker assumes the listener already knows or accepts as true. For example, the sentence "John stopped smoking" presupposes that John used to smoke. Presuppositions remain constant even when a sentence is negated or questioned, highlighting their role as background assumptions rather than explicit statements. Pragmatics also examines how social relationships shape language use through the concept of politeness and face. Face refers to a person's public self-image, which speakers aim to maintain or protect during interaction. Politeness strategies are used to minimize face-threatening acts, such as requests, refusals, or criticism, by softening language or making it more indirect. These strategies vary across cultures and social contexts. Finally, speech act theory explains how language is used not only to convey information, but also to perform actions. Utterances can function as requests, commands, promises, apologies, or warnings, depending on intention and context. For instance, saying "Can you open the window?" is grammatically a question but pragmatically a request. This demonstrates how meaning in pragmatics is deeply tied to what speakers are doing with words rather than merely what they are saying. In summary, pragmatics reveals how communication relies on context, shared assumptions, and social interaction. By analyzing deixis, reference, inference, anaphora, presupposition, politeness, and speech acts, pragmatics explains how humans successfully convey complex, implied meanings in everyday conversation. Sociolinguistics is the branch of linguistics that examines the relationship between language and society, focusing on how social factors shape the way language is used, structured, and interpreted. It investigates how variables such as social class, age, gender, ethnicity, profession, and social networks influence linguistic behavior, demonstrating that language variation is systematic rather than random. One key concept in sociolinguistics is the sociolect, which refers to a variety of language associated with a particular social class or group. Sociolects may differ in pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar, and they often function as markers of social identity. These linguistic differences can signal group membership and may also reflect social inequality, prestige, or power within a community. Sociolinguistics also analyzes speech styles, which exist along a continuum from formal to informal. Speakers naturally adjust their style depending on context, audience, and purpose, such as using formal language in professional settings and informal language in casual conversations. This ability to move between styles is known as style shifting and demonstrates speakers' awareness of social norms and expectations in different communicative situations. Another important phenomenon is speech accommodation, which describes how speakers modify their language in response to their interlocutors. Convergence occurs when speakers adjust their speech to sound more like the listener, often to express solidarity, reduce social distance, or facilitate understanding. In contrast, divergence involves emphasizing linguistic differences in order to maintain social distance, assert identity, or highlight group boundaries. These strategies reveal how language functions as a social tool rather than merely a means of communication. Sociolinguistics also explores specialized forms of vocabulary, such as jargon, slang, and taboo language. Jargon consists of technical or specialized terms used within professional or social groups and serves to facilitate efficient communication while reinforcing insider status. Slang is typically informal and creative, often used by particular age groups or subcultures to express identity and solidarity. Taboo terms, meanwhile, are socially restricted words that reflect cultural norms and values, and their use or avoidance can strongly signal social positioning and attitudes. In summary, sociolinguistics reveals how language both reflects and constructs social reality. Through the study of sociolects, speech styles, accommodation strategies, and group-specific vocabulary, sociolinguistics demonstrates that language is deeply intertwined with social identity, relationships, and power structures. Culture can be defined as the body of socially acquired knowledge, beliefs, values, and practices that members of a community share and transmit across generations. Language is both shaped by culture and a primary means through which culture is expressed and maintained. As a result, linguistic patterns often reflect culturally specific ways of categorizing experience, structuring social relationships, and interpreting the world. A central idea linking language and culture is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, also known as linguistic relativity. This hypothesis proposes that the language we speak influences how we perceive, conceptualize, and understand reality. In its strong form, known as linguistic determinism, the hypothesis suggests that language determines thought, limiting what speakers can think or perceive. While this strong version is widely criticized, a weaker and more widely accepted version argues that language influences habitual patterns of thought, shaping attention, memory, and categorization without strictly determining cognition. Language also reflects and reinforces social categories embedded within a culture. Kinship terms, for example, encode culturally specific relationships and distinctions, such as differences between maternal and paternal relatives or relative age. Forms of address further reveal social structure and power relations. In many languages, the T/V distinction, derived from the Latin tu and vos, differentiates between informal and formal pronouns, signaling levels of familiarity, respect, or social distance. Even in English, which lacks a formal pronoun system, politeness and hierarchy are expressed through titles, honorifics, and naming practices. Another important area where language reflects culture is social gender. Linguistic choices can encode gender roles and expectations, such as gendered occupational terms or differing norms of interaction. Research in sociolinguistics has shown that men and women may display different speech patterns, including variations in pitch, use of tag questions, hedging, or levels of directness. However, these differences are not biologically determined. Rather, they are largely the result of socialization, cultural expectations, and power dynamics within society. In conclusion, language and culture are deeply interconnected. Through linguistic relativity, social categorization, and gendered patterns of speech, language both mirrors cultural values and contributes to their transmission. Understanding this relationship helps explain why languages differ in structure and use, and how linguistic behavior reflects broader social norms and cultural identities.